YouTube? It's me, Tyler. I'm here to do my new weekly review for the Legend of Korra. This week, or Friday, they posted episode 4, which was titled The Calling. What? I don't know. Look at my new glass, guys. It's a tornado. Isn't that awesome? I bought it from Red Robin's last night. Because I went to the haunted houses and stuff. Anyway, on to Korra. Twisty. Okay, so this episode, we got a lot of action from Tenzin's kids. Jinora, Iki, and Milo went off to find Korra. Jinora was going to use her weird little Korra sonar, her hone into her spiritual energy to try and find her. But they couldn't, and of course the sibling rival, I cannot say that word. You know what word I'm talking about. Sibling fighting started. It was great. We got to see more fart bending from Milo. That's always a nice surprise. He fart bended the vines. I'll get to those later. So Tenzin gave them the task to go and find Korra. And they journeyed on Jinora's little bear bison. Milo was hilarious. His mom gave him food for the journey. He was like, well, you're going to live off the wild. And his mom wasn't having any of that. She was like, no. And he would not listen to his dad. He's like, Jinora's in charge. Like, I don't take orders from anyone, even if they have tattoos. And then, when they went looking for Korra for the first time, Iki and Milo flew into town and found an old woman, and he's a really good artist. Did not know that about him. He showed them a picture of Korra, and she was like, oh, you're so cute, and the annoying thing where they pull your cheeks and like, rrr. I hated that as I was a kid. But he's like, I'm not adorable, I'm dangerous. He's easily one of my favorite characters in this show. But eventually they found the fishing village in which Korra showed up there about 6 months earlier, where she saw the picture of Aang with the and I'm making a bunch of random noises now, I'm so sorry. But you know what I mean by he was doing that weird little airbending trick with the seaweed rose, or hang rose now. And Milo pointed out like, oh, there's Korra. And then it was like, what, where? And it was just a picture of her, of course. And Milo was like, it's all your fault, Iki. She's like, well, I didn't do anything. He was like, exactly. You should be more invested in this. So he was getting the attitude. And even to Jinora, oh my god. But eventually he goes back to the swamp where we get to see more of Toph and Katara. I mean, not Katara, wow. Just had a flashback to Avatar, sorry. Toph and Korra. So sorry about that. That seems really funny where Toph was just relaxing. Korra was like, what are we going to do today? And Toph was just like, you're looking at it. She was just laying there being Toph, you know. And she was like, well, at least tell me story time. So Toph did story time. I love her version of story time. Korra was like, the first one was like, tell me how you taught Aang earthbending. And she was like, well, I threw some rocks at the Avatar. He got whining and Sokka fell in a hole. Which, looking back, that's exactly what happened. And that's how I learned earthbending. So, that was great, and the Defeat the Fire Lord story was just like, it was hot, I was on a blimp, I think a giant turtle showed up. What a day. Pretty sure that was the exact quote. That was great. Love Toph's story time. Toph was unimpressed. But anyway, after that, Korra starts apparently getting on Toph's nerves by tapping her feet, and she's just like, go find food or something for dinner. And so she does that. And then it flashes back to Tenzin's kids, and the sibling fighting gets a little bit too much, and Iki gets mad and runs off because Milo or Janora's not listening to her input. So she gets mad and runs off and ends up getting captured by some of Guvira's people. And apparently it's just a really small territory or something, because it's just them two. And they take her to a shack and tie her up. And they're like, oh, this is Tensen's kid. We can get the other two and take them to Guvira, and we get out. We get a big promotion. But, of course, Iki worked her innocent little girl. And she started crying, like, oh, my father's going to be so disappointed if we don't do this mission right. And they're like, oh, they started feeling sorry for her. And they were feeding her the food, because they found their food that Milo threw in the river. And they were just eating, and she was starting to be friends with them and everything. And they ended up getting a map, trying to help her find Korra. And they were like, well, nobody has seen her. There's guards everywhere, so somebody would have reported if they'd seen her. Then Jinora saw the swamp on the map, and she pointed at it, and they're like, oh yeah, no guards go there. So she's like, oh, well, that's probably a good place where Korra would probably be. And at that point, Jinora and Milo bust through the door and knock them out with airbending. And then Iki's just like, what'd you do that for? I had everything under control. And she could just climb right out of those ropes. It was hilarious. And they're like, we're just saving you. And they were getting mad, and then Iki's like, oh yeah, well I know where Korra is, and I found our food. So, bam. And they're just like, oh, well then let's go. Of course, they weren't very nice to Iki. They got to the swamp, and then Jinora was like, I feel a lot of spiritual energy here, but I still don't sense Korra. And they're like, we should still look. And then Jinora was like, no, we're going on. And then the vines just came out and grabbed them and pulled them into the swamp. And they're like, well, obviously we're not going anywhere. And then it flashes back to Korra, and she's looking for the food, and then she ends up having visions of all the past 3 enemies that she's fought. She saw where Amon took her bending away. She saw what Unalaq, well, it was really Batu, the weird little tentacle thing, pulling out Rava, and then it went to Zahir, and she was all chained up in the cave. And so she's been fighting this for a while, and we eventually found out it's because she still has some of the poison inside of her. Sue did not get it all out, and that's why she hasn't been able to go into the Avatar state for the past 3 years, and that's kind of a big deal for the Avatar. And Toph finds her and is like, why didn't you get my food? And she's like, I saw visions. Toph's like, yeah, I figured that happened. And then they had a real talk, and they sat down like, you should learn something from your enemies, and you can't expect to fight new enemies if you're still fighting the old ones. And she was like, oh, yeah. And Toph brought up a point of where the whole title of book 4 is balance, and this whole little talk got into that a little bit, saying you need to learn something from your past enemies. Amon wanted equality, Unalaq brought back the spirits, and Zahir believed in freedom, which was all true. And then she said the only thing wrong with them was that they were completely out of balance, and it took the ideologies way too far. Sound like a bunch of religions to me. No offense for anybody, sorry. But she was like, oh, well, that's true. And then she got disconnected from everybody she loved. That's why Jinora can't sense her, because she's disconnected from her spiritual self. And so Toph's like, okay, we're going to the Banyan Grove tree, which was the giant tree that we saw in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang went and got connected and found Appa. And this is where she went to get reconnected, and while she was doing that, it went to Jinora, and Jinora sensed Korra, and so they found each other at the exact same time. And so they go and fly and find Korra, and that was an amazing scene. They were all crying like, oh, I miss you so much. And then Toph was like, you know, and Korra introduced them as Aang's grandchildren, Aang and Katara's grandchildren, and then Toph was like, your grandpa was a real pain in my butt. God, I love Toph. I hope we see more of her. But another Milo moment here was like, you're old, cranky, and blind. You must be Toph. And then Toph just laughed and was like, I like this one, because it was just like her at that age. So that was a really nice moment. But then it goes back to, like, Jinora, Iki, and Milo are telling her that she needs to come back because the world needs her now. Because Guvir is taking over the Earth's empire now. And of course, like, I'm not the Avatar I used to be. I can't even go into the Avatar state anymore. And that went back to Toph's camp. And she was just sitting by with the parents like, okay, I'm ready. But then Toph was like, I'm not doing it, and you have to do it yourself. So she actually started bending the metal out, but right before that she had a flashback back to Zahir fighting her. And she just had to get over that fear and finally bend the metal out. And finally, when the metal was out, she went back into the Avatar state for the first time in 3 years. The musical score to all this, they added it at the perfect times to make this just amazing. And so the Avatar is now back in action, and the last scene was them flying off, and Toph was just like, finally, some peace and quiet. So, like I said, I really hope we see more Toph. I believe we will by the end of the season, end of the series. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you leave your thoughts on this episode, if you would like to. Again, I would still like to know where you think the season is going to go. Also, in one of the previous episodes, we saw the Spirit Vine. Oh wow, I forgot his name. Inventor dude. Varric. There we go, Varric. He had that Spirit Vine, and Guvir said that was the technology that needs to be his first and only priority. So I'd like to hear your theories on that. Just interested. For me, I think he's going to find out some way to give bending to people. Just everybody. That's my theory. Leave yours down below. Hit a like and subscribe, guys, for more Korra. I'll come back next week for episode 5. It's getting too real. It's almost over. Not really. It's not halfway over yet. It's almost halfway over. Yeah. So anyways, guys, I will catch y'all later. Enjoy the rest of your lovely weekend.